Hi, good morning, Sean. I hope you're doing well. Can we just check your mic and camera, please?
Absolutely, yeah. Good morning. Um, how's that?
Looks fantastic. Thank you.
Great. That's good. Thank you.
Good morning, Gregor. I hope you're doing well. Can we just please check your mic and camera?
Good morning.
Morning. Yes,
Fine,
all clear.
Marvin.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm fine. Thank you.
good. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and good morning, everyone. Uh, we welcome you today for our first DGP Knowledge webinar of 2023. Our topic today will be a global application of gamification techniques. Gamification is the process of using a game design, alignments, and mechanism of non-game content, so to increase the engagement and motivation. You might ask how we can apply it in the government job, or what kind of impact can this techniques have, and hopefully those questions and many more will be covered in our webinar today. If you have any question, please feel free to write it in the chat. I am Mansour Al-Muhiri from the Executive Council of Dubai, and I will be your moderator today. And to tell us more about the gamification, our first speaker for today, the Dean of the School of Design and Informatic in Alberta University, Professor Gregor White, followed by our second speaker, Mr. Sean Taylor, the Director of Innovation for Gaming and Media Enterprise in Alberta University. The floor is yours, Professor. If you can share the presentation, please.
Thank you, Mansour. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. My name is Professor Gregor White. I'm Dean of School of Design Informatics at Alberta University in Dundee. And this morning we're going to talk to you about a couple of things, really. Firstly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the growth of gaming in Dundee and the impact that a growing games industry has had on the city, both economically and culturally. And then Sean is going to develop some of the areas where games in the city and across the world, of course, have grown into both a technology and a practice that can have a deep impact on the delivery of public services and the growth of economies around the world. So I'm going to kick off a little bit about why Dundee. Dundee is a small city on the east coast of Scotland that established a fledgling games industry around about 25 years ago. The city itself was quite a small, economically fairly depressed city, the fourth city in Scotland, before the games industry came to the city and or emerged out of the city and started to grow the economy, digital economy there. The city is now the fourth biggest games cluster in the UK. It has the highest intensity of games developers anywhere in the UK. So if you were to stop somebody in the street in Dundee and ask if they'd made games, they're much more likely to say yes there than anywhere else. And accounts for around about 10% of the UK's gaming economy, both in terms of volume, number of jobs, number of studios, and also in terms of value. So the GDP of the sector in Dundee is fairly significant. So this has grown over a period of time, and the success of the city is built on a number of factors. As I say, the success of the games industry in the city is built on a number of factors. Primarily, the working together of industry, education, and local government and local enterprise to support the growth of a city over a period of time. So the industry itself succeeded through a combination of a creative approach from the local government, a creative approach from industry leaders, and from Scottish enterprise, who got behind the idea of growing a game sector in Dundee very early on and supported the university and the local population to drive growth in this area. It also depended very heavily upon the credibility of the industry itself. So games development was a very new industry and needed a lot of support in terms of attracting talent to Dundee and attracting talent into the industry. So the engagement with sector skills councils, industry bodies, and ranking organisations was very important as part of that journey. So Screen Skills, the National Screen Agency, sets the standards and the quality standards for education in this area, and the Independent Games Association and UK Interactive Education are industry trade bodies that work closely with government and universities to make sure that graduates are being trained in the appropriate way and given the appropriate skills to prosper and grow a local cluster. Alongside that, it's very, very important that we could attract the right talent, both into the courses at Abertay and also from there into the cluster in the city, into jobs and into careers. Where there was very little awareness of the potential for the games industry as a career and the kind of skills that needed to prosper in the games industry, we established an international competition. It's called Dare to be Digital, and we invited young people from all around the world to form teams to come to Dundee and spend some time over the summer in Scotland working together to develop new game ideas and ultimately to present these in a public forum, Dare Protoplay, which grew to attract very large numbers of visitors to the city to come and see the work that had been done by the students on the programme, but it also attracted industry from all around the world to come to Dundee to see the talent that was available there, and a large number of spin-up studios started from Dare to be Digital and established themselves all around the country, and a number of which stayed in Dundee to become very successful studios who are still present in the city today. So because the industry is a very, very talent-intensive industry, it's very important to attract the right skills and the right people into the industry, and because of the fast-moving nature of the technologies and the fast-moving nature of the skills and knowledge needed to succeed, it's very, very important that you have very bright, very talented young people who can work together very closely and very intensely to produce new games and to succeed. So again, as part of that process, we worked with the British Academy's awards for film and television to create a new set of games awards to make sure that we could recognise the best talent and the best potential in the sector. So alongside attracting talent, there was also a growth in terms of the cultural credibility of the medium, and we found that over time more and more cultural organisations were interested in engaging with games as a new medium, culminating, I guess, for us most locally in V&A Dundee hosting video games exhibition in 2016. Which was an internationally renowned success and explored some of the issues around about game design, but bringing credibility to video games as a significant cultural form. And over the years, we've worked with theatre and dance organisations and orchestras to explore the potential of video games music, video games art, and video games design as a significant cultural form. Which alongside which we were engaging with other public organizations and starting to explore the potential of video games as an area that could be applied into more serious areas. And over the years, we've worked with the police force, with air traffic control, with the Care Commission and Royal National Institute for the Blind, to name but a few, to develop games that will to help these organisations work with their client groups. So, Care Quality Commission, we looked at young people in care and how video games could help them negotiate the care system and support them as they moved out into the world as independent young people. National Air Traffic Control, we created training simulators where different scenarios could be played out in the game and help people to develop effective responses to scenarios as they emerged. And we continue to work with Police Scotland and the RNIB to develop a range of products that allow their staff and their clients to work together to simulate scenarios where spontaneous responses are required. So, and the value of video games in that space is the variability of the scenario and our ability to create scenes where that are less predictable for officers and operatives. Which has taken us to a point now where we're working quite significantly with a number of different departments within Scottish Government, in particular in UK Government as well, and working to look at how we can use games in a variety of scenarios where planning decisions can be very complex, can be very challenging, and can be very dynamic. Looking at how this helps the Scottish Government to deliver government policy and working with the Digital Citizens Unit to understand how citizens within Scotland can access digital services, and looking at working with Architecture and Design Scotland to look at potential town planning decisions and what variables operate in that space and what decisions can be made. And more recently, looking at autonomous vehicle network systems in Scotland to be able to make planning decisions and resource decisions there. So from very early days, the potential of games has been realised through a combination of working across government, across universities, and across the industry to both generate new talent and find new opportunities, and over time become more significant, more serious, and more impactful technology and process in the delivery of public services. At that point, I'll hand over Sean to bring more detail to that picture, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Gregor. Now we will start with the second speaker, Mr. Sean.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I can present. Can everyone see my slides?
Just now, yes.
Just now, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean.
Mr. Sean, we cannot see you. I think there is an issue with the cam.
You cannot see me?
No.
I shall turn the camera off and on. I can see myself. Is that any better?
It's still dark.
Dark. Oh, not sure. The issue could be that. Any better?
Not yet.
Right. Okay.
I think we can proceed now.
I'll proceed. Yeah. Hopefully, I'll try a couple of things in the background that might sort itself out. But yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Taylor, and I work alongside Gregor at Abertay University as Director of Innovation for Games and Media Enterprise. And today, as Gregor suggested, I wanted to share with you just how game design and technologies are beginning to transform the world and make an impact. and really how their creative application is beginning to invent radically better futures for us all. By way of introduction, I'm going to talk about some of the key concepts of game technology, then explore some practical use cases before we dive into some of our own sort of R&D practice and case studies. And then finally, I'd love to take some of your questions. For background, InGame is the UK's dedicated research and innovation centre for games and media enterprise. It's funded by the UK and Scottish governments. The project is led by Aberdeen University in partnership with the Universities of Dundee and St Andrews, and a collaborative network of local, national and international industry partners such as Microsoft and Sony PlayStation. And the purpose of InGame is to drive growth and innovation by working with the private sector to establish research, infrastructure, de-risk creative experimentation, develop scale-up capabilities, and diversify innovation opportunities. As the title of this talk suggests, we believe that game tech is transforming the world, or to be more precise, at InGame, we believe game design tools, techniques, and technologies are transforming the world, and that their application has massive potential to invent a radically better future for us all. And not just because it sounds like fun, but because there's a massive opportunity and incredible potential held within game design tools, techniques, and technologies. As Mary Meeker, tech guru and venture capitalist, says, games are the motherlode of tech product innovation, evolution, and modern learning. The application and proliferation of game technology into industry, enterprise, and even the public sector will be a key theme of the next decade. In 2021, the Digital Futures Index identified 3 key trends: the journey towards digital twins, the rise of the metaverse, and remote and autonomous machines. Each, as you can see from the slide, is an incredibly valuable and fast-growing market, and each has emerged from and is powered by game technologies. This infographic is useful for understanding what game tech is and why it is viewed as a motherlode of innovation. Game technology broadly describes 2 distinct types of technological innovations: pre-existing technologies and technologies initially designed for video games. Pre-existing technologies such as CPUs, network technologies, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence have experienced accelerated innovation due to their use in game development. For example, AI researchers are applying techniques used in video games to develop and train artificial intelligence models that are faster than ever before. At the same time, technologies initially designed for video games are now being utilized for industrial application. These include virtual reality, game engines, GPUs, adaptive input devices. And as we can see from the diagram on the right of the screen, game technologies are being applied to and benefiting a broad range of industries, including education, healthcare, and digital media production. To illustrate the point, I would like to provide 5 short, impactful use cases of game technologies creating smarter cities, healthier citizens, productive workplaces, engaged tourists, and greener societies. But before I start, I would like to invite you all to participate in a poll. We'd love to get your opinions on which game technology use cases have the greatest potential for application in the public sector. To vote, simply scan the QR code with your phone or go to www.menti.com and use the code 1405256. I'm about to put the link and instructions in the chat for easy access. You can vote as many times as you like. Ideally, every time a use case provides a flash of inspiration, and it would be great to review the results at the end. Okay, it's not letting me do that, unfortunately. I'll just pop it in. Bear with me 1 second. Apologies. That's the correct code there. Okay, so Use case 1 is smarter cities. A digital twin is a virtual representation of a physical asset or system, such as a building, a bridge, or city infrastructure. It uses real-time data and analytics to simulate the asset's performance behavior, allowing for predictions, optimization, and decision-making. In a city context, digital twins can help increase efficiencies by allowing public sector organizations to simulate and test various scenarios such as traffic flow, energy usage, emergency response before implementing changes in the physical world. It can also help inform decisions by providing real-time data and insights into the current state of the city's infrastructure. Overall, digital twin technology can help cities make more informed decisions, creating cost savings and improve public services. The video you're seeing just now showcases the digital twin for the city of Wellington in New Zealand. It harnesses smart city technologies and real-time data feeds to provide instant feedback on key processes and critical infrastructure, helping planners, policy designers, and decision takers explore complex and fluid issues in a virtual world before taking action in a real one. The Wellington City digital twin was built in the Unreal game engine. Running on a fairly standard PC, it enables real-time rapid visualization of critical infrastructure, master planning, data, film, and architecture. In this video, we see it running inside the game engine. For a comparison, the Wellington digital twin is around the same size of the map in GTA 5. Its fidelity, utility, and potential are incredible, and it is all achieved through the application of game technologies. Use case 2, healthier citizens. Evidence-based digital therapeutics created by companies such as MindMaze combine cutting-edge neuroscience with highly engaging game design and smart input devices. The high-dose, high-intensity therapeutic movements lead to restoration of functions and improved patient outcomes. The product you see on screen is MindPod, which uses motion-sensitive cameras to track the movements made by patients. The aim of the game is to direct a dolphin across the screen to catch a fish. The game accelerates rewiring of the brain around cells that have been damaged by a stroke and help patients regain control of their nervous system. Around 100,000 people suffer a stroke every year in the UK, but just 10% make a small recovery. Small-scale trials of MindPod show it's twice as effective as conventional rehabilitation for patients with an impaired arm, a common consequence of a stroke. Use case 3, more productive workplaces. Advances in virtual reality and augmented reality and mixed reality are enabling co-workers to duplicate the serendipity of in-person training, learning, and development without the time or cost of travel. In this video previewing the forthcoming Microsoft Mesh technology, we see shared 3D visualizations, holographics, instructions and simulations being mapped onto real-world environments via mixed reality. One of the participants is represented as an avatar controlled via virtual reality in their remote location. A Forrester report commissioned by Microsoft found mixed reality increased training efficiency by 60%, saving $1,440 per trainee, whilst also improving knowledge acquisition and knowledge retention. In a post-pandemic world of hybrid working, virtual reality is coming to the fore, increasing the sense of presence felt by workers whilst reducing commonly experienced Zoom fatigue. Virtual reality offices are an immersive way to meet teammates, brainstorm ideas, share presentations, and get things done. And again, they're powered by game technologies. Use case 4, engage tourists. Pokemon Go is a well-known mobile game that utilizes augmented reality. The product combines geospatial data, augmented reality, gamification mechanics to incentivize user movement in the physical world. But it's more than just a game. Pokemon Go live events contributed $247 million in tourism revenue across 3 cities in 2019. The biggest revenue generator was the Pokemon Go Fest Chicago, which drove an estimated $120 million in tourism revenue from attending players, which included 64,000 attendees across the 4-day event. Another Pokemon Go festival in the German city of Dortmund drew 86,000 attendees and generated just under $60 million in tourism revenue. In addition, a 2017 academic study found that local restaurants associated with Pokemon Go enjoy higher levels of consumer engagement and more positive consumer perception. Use case 5, greener cities. The astronaut Tim Peake describes experiences created by the drone art company Celestial as poetry, art, and culture meet science and technology. These complex drone displays are designed and tested using game engines and artificial intelligence. They are also powered by renewable energy sources and are environmentally friendly alternatives to fireworks. Game tech is driving this green transition, eliminating the fire risks, toxic gases, and metal deposits associated with traditional pyrotechnic displays. So those were some real-world examples that back up our theory of change, our belief that game design tools, techniques, and technologies are transforming the world. But how does that theory translate into practice? We've created an experimental initiative called the Applied Games Lab, an innovation sandbox where teams of game design experts, creative technologists, academic researchers, innovative companies, and domain specialists come together to apply game design tools, techniques, and technologies to serious challenges beyond entertainment. It takes the form of ambitious innovation competitions designed to jumpstart high-risk, high-reward collaborations and promote awesome potential of game technologies to provoke breakthrough solutions and drive positive change. Responding to questions such as, what if we could harness the power and potential of game design and technologies to make dairy cows healthier, happier, and more productive? This is SmartView, coming to a farm near you soon. SmartView was catalysed in the very first Applied Games Lab, a 4-hour workshop which de-risked and unlocked £250,000 of UK government funding. SmartView combines 8 game technologies to increase productivity, reduce costs, and improve animal welfare. Here's a quick look of how it works. This video was shot by the developers on site in a farm in Scotland. The annual cost of obesity to the UK is now £58 billion. The country loses 3% of its annual GDP to obesity, and every year obesity costs our health service £6.5 billion. Every obese person is deprived 9 years of life, and every year obesity kills more than 30,000 people in the UK. What if we could end the UK's obesity pandemic by applying the compelling creativity of game design and the awesome potential of game technologies? This was the provocative question which kick-started our most recent collaboration. The Virtual Healthy Neighbourhoods Challenge was designed in collaboration with the UK's social innovation agency, NESTA. As we explored earlier, there is huge potential in digital twins. They help safely innovate and de-risk decision-making by limiting unintended consequences in the real world. The Nesta Playbox is an innovation sandbox where policymakers can rapidly experiment with radical health policy interventions. A prototype version of the Nesta Playbox is currently in development, fusing digital twins, user-generated content, game design, geospatial data, health data, economic data, transport data, and artificial intelligence. With policy pressure towards net zero rising in many countries, the evolution towards green and next-gen mobility is gaining momentum. The years ahead will undoubtedly bring significant changes as electrification, shared mobility, vehicle connectivity, artificial intelligence, and eventually autonomous vehicles reshape transport habits and markets around the world. With that top of mind, we ask the question, what if the application of game design and technologies can reimagine sustainable mobility and transform Dundee's response to the climate crisis? To remake cleaner and smarter cities, the public sector needs to have a comprehensive understanding of the 3 pillars of modern smart mobility: technologies, technicalities, and policies, and how they interact with complex real-world systems. In collaboration with Michelin Scotland Innovation Park and V&A Dundee, In-game prototype 20-minute neighborhood to explore how game technologies and social innovation interventions can catalyze new and sustainable placemaking models. 20-minute neighborhoods leverages artificial intelligence and machine learning, digital twins, game design, mixed reality, health data, geospatial data, economic data, and transport data to imagine policy and decision-making in a city of the future. In addition to these flagship projects, our lab has applied game technologies to gamified healthcare training, data-driven AR tourism, immersive marine experiences, playable therapeutics, gamified construction sites, post-pandemic playable cities, VR surgical training, and VR cheese tasting. In a mapping exercise, we also identified the following public sector opportunity spaces for the application of game design tools, techniques, and technologies. Game tech skills development, policy foresight and innovation, post-pandemic infrastructure, sustainable mobility, 21st century generative education, smarter cities, hyper-personalized tourism, and of course the metaverse. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas on these opportunity spaces. And that's it for me. Before I go, I shall check the poll results and report back. But other than that, I'd love to hear any questions you have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Sean, for an amazing, actually, presentation and experience of other governments. So we will open the door for questions. So please write your questions on the chat, so we can ask Professor Gregor or even Mr. Sean. Until we get the questions, we have one question here: how we can use game technology help in improving customers and employees in the government? I think this question for you, Mr. Sean.
It's a really interesting question, and certainly, well, we've approached it from two places previously. The first is obviously games or game design has a long track record in designing very engaging habits and feedback loops. And so what we've experimented with a couple of companies actually in the lab are how we might almost gamify their customer service engagements. So obviously trying to go beyond just badges or leaderboards and such like, but actually thinking about it as a designed experience that is fun to engage with and without trivializing. So that's one way to certainly achieve that. And like I say, I think design and game design thinking more generally, I think will start to become sort of embedded within organizations, and it wouldn't surprise me to start to see sort of the recruitment of game designers into sort of both public sector and sort of private sector sort of workplaces to design such experiences in the future.
Great. And what kind of issue that government can face using game technology in the government work?
I think Gregor will probably speak more to this, but I think where we are seeing a real interest is in policy making. So firstly, to get that real-time sort of feedback on cities or regions and how complex systems are interacting with each other. But where we see an opportunity is to go beyond that and create almost these playgrounds where people can recreate a synthetic version of a city, of a place, and then design and implement radical policies and test their impact in a space in a safe digital space prior to sort of, I guess, building the use case and the business case for rollout into the real world. And that's what we're trying to achieve with a couple of projects we're running just now. Is how do we go beyond sort of, I guess, the simulation or replication of digital twins, and how do we start to create these predictive policy sandboxes that can perhaps take in all these complex data sets and through artificial intelligence model how a city might react on a 30-year time horizon and try and tease out some of those unintended consequences that go alongside that.
Great.
Yeah, I think it could just add to that slightly by maybe explaining what core games technologies do. If I'm sure most of you have played games over time, and you can see the systems operating in the background. But what they do is work with spatial data, so where things are in relation to each other, in relation to the player. So they've got locations, interactions, and agencies within that system, and it really just manages those data sets to deliver the game experience. And that's not dissimilar to any other kind of complex system that you might come across, so a transit system or a hospital or any other area of government delivery where there are large dynamic groups of people accessing services or accessing systems, transport or water or or light or power, healthcare systems. Wherever you have a large dynamic system where there are interdependencies on resource and interdependencies on other people, then games engines work very, very well in that space. So they manage that kind of information incredibly well and can deliver efficiencies very effectively within that space. I think what's interesting, what Sean's talking about, is bringing that layer of game design thinking to that process, which can then enhance the service level and the user experience of these systems, begins to offer real improvement, both in terms of delivery experience, but also in terms of efficiency and resource management. So the combination of games technology and game design comes together to really enhance government services, public services, in a very efficient way.
Great. Maybe there is a lot of actually great questions here, but it's mainly related to this topic, how we can engage senior citizen into gamification, especially people they are not into technology.
It's a really good question. It's something I've seen firsthand the benefits of. So certainly, so my wife's sort of grandmother recently sort of suffered a stroke, and as you've been using, I guess the game Words with Friends to almost retrain her brain, and certainly in terms of development, it becomes a massive part of her ongoing improvement. But even then, there are completely accept that those technology kind of barriers that lay. I think we've done a couple of projects with senior citizen care homes around virtual reality, but what they end up being is very managed processes where that constant need for somebody to help them, not just on board, but for them to interact. And I think it's still a massive challenge. I think the potential is, as technology becomes more pervasive and perhaps ambient gamification becomes much more prevalent. And what I mean by that is, for example, say a smartwatch that is constantly sort of tracking whether it's your number of steps and such like, and setting those kind of passive daily challenges, but always on in the background. I think there is a smarter gamification layer to lay on top of that can drive people without them having to learn a plethora of sort of new technologies.
Yeah, just follow up with that, saying that one of the significant barriers to older generations engaging with games was actually the dexterity required to operate the technology, and we saw with the introduction of the Wii just how engaging it can be for all generations where these kind of physical barriers are taken away. So the Wii was incredibly successful amongst older people as well as young people, really because of that level of accessibility. And we will see, we're seeing now gestural interfaces and contact-free interfaces, which can still be confusing and difficult to grasp for older people, particularly if they have degenerative issues around about their ability to learn new things. But as Sean says, these can be unobtrusive and can be it can be monitoring or part of everyday life where you don't have to directly interact with the technology. But I think it's an evolving space, and we will see more improvement in this in these interfaces.
Wonderful. More questions there. How did you measure the impact of the games? Any specific KPIs?
So in the work we are doing tends to be at the, I guess, the more experimental end of research and development. And so for the SmartView, the dairy farming project, the test really was to be able to use it in situ. So it was really a field test. So what you've seen on the video with SmartView is, sure, it has an interface and overlay to let you see what you can see through the mixed reality sort of goggles. But the test was there. Could you actually go onto a farm? Can it identify a particular cow? Can it bring up its particular markers? And so all that, there was a clear sort of end-to-end sort of data user journey, I guess, that had to be sort of satisfied as we went through it. For the Playbox sort of digital twin around obesity, the test again is really to take real world data, both geospatial, health and socioeconomic, and actually run a credible experiment with it. And so we have sort of data experts in the background who will work with ourselves to, I guess, sort of design the integrity of and manage the integrity of the inputs, and then also test the plausibility and credibility of the outputs. What we're trying to do, I guess, is demonstrate or prove the concept and move forward. I think what's interesting around that particular example is that the limitation is not game technologies, but the limitation, and this has been surprising for us, is actually on the health data side. And so we're now at a point where we're actually limited by the inputs of sort of data that the UK has. Despite it acknowledging obesity as a major problem, it doesn't actually have the health data inputs to allow us to train sort of artificial intelligence models to sort of imagine radical policy interventions. And so I think it kind of speaks to what Gregor was talking about right at the start, where the need for people like ourselves to be embedded within sort of government organisations and initiatives that are thinking around policy, because this starts way before, or it should start way before we intervene. It needs to start with sort of the data gathering and sort of data brain that you'll build for around the country. It needs to start way early in the process.
Wonderful. Another question here. How much the gamification technique and its data can relate it upon to make a critical decisions?
Thought you were going to step in there, Gregor. I'm happy to hear your thoughts. It really depends on the context, and I think we are certainly, and like I say, with ourselves being involved in sort of the research and the R&D side, I think we're still trying to figure out what the answer to that is. I think, and it also very much depends on the context. I mean, I've seen a comment in chat earlier that was referring to sort of data security and such like, and different data sets and different sort of public sector interventions come with different implications and requirements. And I think there's no easy answer to it is the problem, and also we don't know enough yet, which is why really we're trying to create this sort of academic environment where we can ethically and safely test some of these boundaries to start to find out sort of where what are the requirements.
I think, sorry, Sean, looking like he's going to answer. I think the real benefit of this is to improve critical decision making. So what it allows us to do is take scenarios or create scenarios where decision making is a very important part of the process and a very important part of getting good outcomes, and train people to make better decisions in those dynamic scenarios. So the taking the decision making out of the real world where it's high risk and high cost, take it into a virtual world where you can run through scenarios and you can make decisions, and then you can go back and reflect. You can make different decisions and see what the different outcome might be. And that will improve decision making in these areas. But it will also allow technologies like machine learning to look at the decision making and the potential impacts and outcomes of those decisions, and start to learn what the factors of good decision making might be in relation to the data sets. And over time, you'll be able to run AI decision making tools within larger systems where there are these sophisticated interdependencies, and be able to generate better outcomes with fewer kind of unintended consequences within the system. So there's a time period involved, I think, in that learning process, but I think it isn't a tool for making critical decisions on the fly. It's a tool for making better decisions over time.
Great, Professor. More question here. If we are going to implement the gamification in power section, what the security measure we should consider?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, Mansoor?
Yes, sure. If we are going to implement the technology itself, the gamification in power section, what the level of the security measure we should consider?
Again, it really depends on how you're going to apply it. If it's about resource management, if it's about making decisions about how efficiencies, about service design and experience of the service, then the data that's running in the background of that, if it's real world data, then I guess there's a level of sensitivity around about that you would treat in the same way as any data that has sensitive information within it, or sensitive processes to apply it. So the system itself is not fundamentally secure or insecure. It's your approach to data security that will drive that. Once there's a user interface end of it there, then I guess there's different data security questions. So if you've got an interface in the home, or where data security might not be as reliable as it would be within a government department, then obviously there's an element of systems design and software design and cybersecurity that needs to be part of that implementation plan.
Great, Professor. Is there any special design module for those services, maybe in the smart games in the government?
Not a special model, I guess. It's more of a mindset adopted by game designers. So as Gregor's touched on, very early in, I guess, the education of students within Abertay, the idea or the concept of applied games or serious games is introduced. And that kind of mindset is developed. And I think it's just developing, I guess, the mindset that you're applying game design thinking to a problem rather than just purely focused on creating a game or an entertainment product. And so there's not a particular model, but I would say there's a different context and set of considerations that a designer will sort of place themselves within.
Wonderful. So I believe all those questions. No, there is more actually, if you allow me. But the most challenging of implementing the game technology to be as a smart city, the most challenge you have been gone through.
I think Sean mentioned earlier on is the data collection and the quality of the data that exists within the public sector in Scotland at the moment. So it's very partial. It's collected in some areas and not in others. It's dependent on city infrastructure and devices used to collect data. It's dependent on whichever systems are being operated within local government departments or energy providers or telecoms providers. So I think it's the variable quality of the data that we can use to drive these systems. But again, I think that's something that's emerging and is evolutionary and will improve over time. As a byproduct of that, there's a kind of personal level reticence in population. I think we would all feel the same way about governments collecting our personal data. I think the challenge for governments is to demonstrate improvement in service delivery as a consequence of shared data. And I think when customers see the benefit of the improved service and the improved efficiency, then there'll be less reticence, I think, to share their data in those spaces.
I think to build on that from a pure implementation point of view, the tools used to sort of deliver these kind of experiences are actually incredibly cost effective. The main problem in terms of the costs faced by implementing this approach is actually access to talent, and that's a global sort of challenge. Then that there are at this moment, whether it's with the Unity game engine or the Unreal game engine, they are now, as they leave sort of games and sort of proliferate across all industries, it becomes a very valuable skill, and there's not enough people skilled in these areas to go round, which is why sort of we point out that kind of idea of solving those pipeline challenges and access to talent issues by I guess developing more homegrown talent is something we're trying to address here, because that certainly helps manage the costs of implementation and then operation sort of beyond the rollout.
I think this question lead me to another question, which how we can benefit from the big data and open data generated in the gaming technology.
I think the better the quality of the data, the better the simulation might be. So where you have the more data you have about transport systems, about healthcare systems, about the way that population engage with these systems, the better. If you're building a digital twin and a digital simulation, large scale, I think what you really need to do is understand the system. I think and where the interdependencies lie. But I think the quality of the data will make all the difference.
Great. I think we are running out of the time. So on behalf of DGEP team, we'd like to thank Mr. Professor Gregor White and Mr. Shane Taylor. And thank you our attendees for participation. Wish you a pleasant day, and we will see you in our future webinars. This webinar already recorded. You will find it in DGEP platform. So please visit it and feel free to enjoy it again and again. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mansoor.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.